We want to welcome our viewers in Korea and around the world. I'm Moon Gun-young in Seoul. This is Arirang News special coverage of the Joint News Conference following a trilateral summit between Korea, Japan, and China. Now, the leaders of South Korea, China, and Japan met here in Seoul on this Sunday for their very first summit talks in more than 3 years. This as the Northeast Asian powers struggle to find common ground and bickering over history and territory disputes. We have a live coverage of the press conference ahead, but before that, in the studio with me is Arirang News Foreign Affairs correspondent Song Ji-sun. Now, Ji-sun, we saw high-level contact between Tokyo, China, and Korea, of course, come to a halt more than 3 years ago over history and territorial disputes. Now, this is a summit that comes after 3.5 years, so this must be a positive sign, I would presume.
Right, that could either mean that the three leaders had agreed on their joint statements very easily because they agreed on a very similar stance on economic and political and social approaches toward enhancing their cooperation on a regional basis. Because as you can see, it's proceeding with the translation, so that means they only have half of the hour to actually communicate because they have to speak in their own languages, which will then be translated to their other languages. So that means they only talk for maybe 45 minutes of the 1.5 hours.
Right. I mean, it was scheduled for 2 hours, but we just learned from the presidential office that it was cut down and the leaders ended their summit after 1.5 hours. And we're trying to analyze whether that was a positive or a negative sign, correct?
Right. That could be actually interpreted as a positive sign, as we could hear from their joint statement soon to be announced in a few minutes.
Right, so a possible, actually, let's go over to the venue. We are seeing the three leaders of the three countries entering the press conference, and we're going to toss it over to the presidential office of 청와대.
박근혜 대한민국 대통령, 아베 신조 일본국 내각 총리 대신 리크창 중화인민공화국 국무원 총리의 제6차 한일중 정상회의 결과에 대한 공동 기자회견을 시작하겠습니다.
So we are seeing the presidential office announce the opening of the press conference between leaders of South Korea and Japan and China. Of course, this is the first one to happen in more than 3 years. And here's President Park.
Let me begin by extending my deepest gratitude to Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and Premier Li Keqiang for attending the 6th Trilateral Summit despite their busy schedules. This summit is the first held in 3.5 years, and it aims to promote and mend the framework that is needed to overcome issues in the Northeast Asian region. There have been hurdles, but thanks to the efforts of the three countries, we have been able to resume the trilateral summits, and as chair country, we are very happy to have played a key role. And as chair country, the Republic of Korea will first report on the results of the summit. Through the summit, we held very frank and in-depth discussions relating to global and regional issues, and we have adopted a joint statement to promote cooperation and peace and security in the Northeast Asian region. And we have reaffirmed our position to regularly hold trilateral summits. Despite the fact that the trilateral summits were on hold for the past 3.5 years, we recognized that cooperation has continued in many fields among the three countries, and based on the spirit of squarely facing history, we agreed to promote further cooperation and enhance cooperation in the region. And we have agreed to cooperate in the following 5 areas. First, by institutionalizing a cooperation mechanism, we have agreed to promote cooperation in this region. So we have agreed to work toward establishing peace and security in the region. And to this end, we will hold regular trilateral summits, and we will expand governmental mechanisms to this end. Prime Minister Abe and Premier Lee welcomed Korea's Northeast Asia Peace and Cooperation Initiative and have agreed to further develop this initiative. Also, when it comes to disaster management, nuclear safety, and environment, we will continue to further cooperation, and by doing so, we will build mutual trust among the three countries. Second, we will work toward economic and social cooperation to promote prosperity in Northeast Asia, and we will cooperate to identify and further strengthen growth engines in the future. We have agreed to accelerate the trilateral FTA negotiations, and we will also work toward signing the RCEP as well. Also, when it comes to e-commerce, culture, and health issues, especially new industries, we will engage in further cooperation, and we will also establish a new unit for creative industries. Also, we have agreed to further cooperation in the implementation of sustainable development goals, and we will also work toward the successful hosting or the attendance of the related UN conferences. And we have continued to expand cooperation in the yellow dust issues and climate change issues, and to this end, we will form high-level consultations. Furthermore, we will further strengthen cultural and people-to-people exchange. We will expand cooperation in this area. We will promote Campus Asia, and we will also promote various youth exchange programs to this end. We will also further tourism exchange among the three countries, and by doing so, we will bolster human-to-human exchange, people-to-people exchange, and cultural exchange. Lastly, we will also contribute to the challenges faced by this region and the global community. We will deepen our cooperation to contribute to regional and global issues. When it comes to environmental issues, we will collaborate, and we have also agreed on the fact that peace and security in Northeast Asia is key to this region, and we will continue to work toward accelerating the resumption of six-party nuclear talks as well. Also, Premier Lear and Prime Minister Abe have agreed to support Korea in its efforts to overcome the division on the Korean Peninsula. When it comes to regional cooperation, we will continue to further cooperation in the multilateral frameworks, including ASEAN and APEC, and we will further strengthen collaboration in this area to further promote regional cooperation, and by doing so, we will respond together in a better fashion against regional, global, and other economic issues. And in the international area, we recognize that there is a serious threat to global security. We will further cooperation in our counterterrorism initiatives as well. Today, we mark the 70th year or anniversary of liberation of Korea and also the Korean War. So it's a very significant year, and it is all the more significant that this year we have resumed trilateral summits between the three countries, and we believe that this is a very important step forward in promoting peace and prosperity in the three countries. We believe that this will serve as a stepping stone to further strengthen cooperation among the three countries, and it will serve as a catalyst to improve bilateral relations among the three countries as well. Through trilateral cooperation, I believe that we will contribute to the peace and prosperity and security of not only our three countries, but the region and the international community. Based on the results of the summit, we will continue to move firmly toward advancing the relationship between the three countries. And lastly, I would like to once again extend my gratitude to Premier Lear and Prime Minister Abe for their cooperation and support for this trilateral summit. Thank you.
That was President Park Geun-hye on the trilateral summit, and now we will be listening to Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe for his remarks on the trilateral summit.
Good afternoon. Korea, China, and Japan are neighbors, as you know. And as neighboring countries, of course, there are some difficulties we face. However, today we have held a trilateral summit. And this is one of the reasons why Japan has continued to call for a resumption of the trilateral summit. To this end, I would like to thank President Park Geun-hye for her initiative in contributing and helping us to resume this trilateral summit. This is a great contribution to the region and also to the world. President Park and Premier Lee and myself engaged in frank discussions about the peace and prosperity of this region and how we can promote peace and prosperity of this region. The three countries have also very close economic ties as well. And so we also have a significant future economic potential as well. We have agreed to accelerate trilateral FTA negotiations. We saw eye to eye on the importance of this issue. And this is an effort that we will continue to spearhead. The TPP, which promotes free trade, has been signed by Japan and other countries, but Japan also agrees that we need an economic agreement for this region as well. We can pursue economic cooperation in so many different fields, and also other fields as well. For instance, environment, youth exchange, disaster management. And we have agreed to expand and strengthen cooperation in these other areas as well, and we are very pleased with the results. When it comes to the political arena, for Japan, the abductee issue is very important when it comes to the North Korean issue. And so I strongly urge the two leaders to take an interest in this issue as well. And we agree that North Korea should refrain from further provocative actions and fully and faithfully implement its commissions and comply with the international commitments it has made. And we were able to reaffirm our common stance regarding this issue. This year, the ASEAN community will be launched. And we will also be holding the East Asia Summit. And we also share that these mechanisms will promote peace and prosperity and cooperation in this region. And we also discussed a plethora of global issues as well. And we agreed that we will further expand and deepen cooperation to this end as well. Japan, Korea, and China. These three countries will continue to work for regional peace as well as global peace. And we feel that we share a big responsibility in contributing to global peace. And so we will continue to work together to resolve these issues as well. And we believe that this is the expectation of the international community as well. This trilateral summit is being held for the first time in 3.5 years. And through the resumption of the trilateral summit, I believe that the cooperation mechanism between the three countries are now back on track. Next year, Japan will be a chair country of this trilateral summit process, and we will be hosting the trilateral summit next year. And so we believe today was a great stepping stone for the trilateral summit next year, and we hope for very fruitful results from the next trilateral summit as well. And once again, I would like to thank President Park Geun-hye for hosting the trilateral summit. And I would also like to extend my deepest gratitude to the Korean people for their warm welcome.
And that was Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe making comments on the trilateral summit. And here's Premier Li Keqiang of China.
对本次会议给予的
I understand the media was very much interested in the results of the Trilateral Summit. I would like to thank you for your interest. As you know, the Trilateral Summit is being held for the first time in 3.5 years. And the subject was to promote peace and stability in the Northeast Asian region. And one of our goals, of course, and aim is to enhance the happiness of the people of the three countries. I would also like to extend my deepest gratitude to President Park for hosting the Trilateral Summit and the people of Korea for extending a warm welcome to us. Just moments ago, Prime Minister Abe, President Park, and myself talked about common issues that we face, and we held quite in-depth and frank discussions. And we have reached an agreement on many issues. We have reaffirmed the fact that we all regard cooperation between the three countries as very important. The three countries serve as a very important engine for growth in the Northeast Asian region, and we play a pivotal role in promoting peace and security in the region as well. And we play a very important role in defending and protecting the peace and security of this region. We need to face history squarely, and we need to appropriately respond and handle sensitive issues, including historical issues. And we also agree that we need to promote a very healthy and constructive relationship in all areas of cooperation. And we also agree to make more efforts for the economic integration of this region as well. And the goal has been set to work toward forming an East Asia community by 2020. And we can contribute to economic growth and peace on the global arena through our initiative as well. China also views the Trilateral Summit very important, and our bilateral relations with Korea and Japan are equally important. As you know, the cooperation mechanism has been at a standstill for reasons that you all know. We need to achieve mutual understanding regarding history and historical issues, and we need to look toward the future and agree on a future direction based on dialogue and cooperation. And I hope that this is a goal we can achieve. And we hope that we can continue to hold trilateral summits, and we hope that there will be no further hurdles to the trilateral summit process. Firstly, in order to do this, we need to enhance mutual political trust. And in order to achieve this, we need a common understanding on sensitive issues, including history. Korea, Japan, and China bear a great responsibility in regional prosperity and peace. And we also bear responsibility for peace and security on the Korean Peninsula as well. And we need to create an environment where we can make efforts to achieve these goals. And we need to identify economic potential of this region. The three countries have a very complementary economic structure, and we have a great economic potential. We need to pool our efforts together to establish infrastructure, to conduct projects, and also endeavor into new fields of economic cooperation. And by doing so, we can come up with a new model of economic cooperation. And the three countries in the global market should engage in cooperation instead of competition. And thirdly, we need to protect the financial stability of the region together. The global economic recovery is slow, so the attention of the global community is on whether this region can continue its economic growth as it has done in the past. And so we need to play a pivotal role in stabilizing the financial market of this region to promote economic growth. We have agreed to accelerate the trilateral FTA negotiation process. So we need to accelerate the trilateral FTA negotiations as we have agreed, and we also need to accelerate the RCEP process as well. And we need to further strengthen our cooperative mechanism, and we also need to pursue the Chiang Mai Initiative multilateralization, and by doing so, we can promote stable growth. And we also need to promote sustainable growth. And we need to carry out our agreements to this end, and we need to form networks relating to environment and other development areas. We need to promote exchange and communication in this area. And we also need to further the cooperation between regional economies. And we also need to work together in eradicating poverty in this region as well. Korea, China, and Japan also bear responsibility in eradicating poverty, and we also need to promote a social and people-to-people exchange. And this is what the people of the three countries want. The trilateral cooperation, bilateral cooperation will serve as a basis to promote people-to-people exchange. And one of the main goals for us is to promote people-to-people exchange, and by doing so, to enhance mutual understanding between the peoples of the three countries. By this exchange in the private sector, we can promote understanding of each other, and we can also build affinity among the people of the three countries. And this will serve as an important stepping stone for improving bilateral relations as well as trilateral relations. This year marks the 70th anniversary of the end of the World War II as well. And this is indeed a very significant year. And so this year, we need to send a clear message to the world that we will continue and walk down the path of protecting peace and security in this region. And so we need to reaffirm our stance. War is a failure of human intelligence and wisdom. And peace is the only way forward for humanity. And cooperation is what we need to achieve international development in this day and age. So trilateral cooperation and bilateral relations, we hope, can move forward without facing any great challenges. So I hope we can keep our comprehensive, broader goal in mind and clearly steer the trilateral cooperation and bilateral relations in the right directions. And this is the hope of China. Thank you very much.
제6차 한일중 정상회의 공동 기자회견을 모두 마치겠습니다.
That was a joint news conference by Korean President Park Geun-hye, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, and Chinese Premier Li Keqiang. Now, leaders of the three neighboring countries, we saw them putting aside some of their differences, at least downplaying them. President Park saying that the summit will be held on a regular basis, also saying that the two other leaders supported her Northeast Asia Peace Initiative. Also, the three leaders agreed on various social and economic cooperation, as well as trilateral FTA, and engage in people-to-people exchange. Now, Ji-sun, so we did see the three leaders, I suppose, sidestepping the really sensitive issues. In fact, Premier Li Keqiang was the only one who actually brought up the word history and, delivered a pretty bold speech, I would say. Let's first go over the economic or the trade agreements that the three leaders talked about.
Right. I think the three leaders came to approach the issue and the meeting on an economic basis, especially on enhancing their cooperation toward a very future-oriented perspective. And they all focused on the trilateral FTA to approach the issue, as well as enhancing cooperation in terms of regional FTAs, for example, the RCEP, which is the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership that involves the ASEAN. So they want to expand from regional to global level in terms of expanding their free trade agreements. And they will also, as we saw in the China-Korea summit talks yesterday, they will also expand in the ways to actually make their benefits in the most possible way that could expand their potentials and partnerships in terms of economy and their financial cooperation. Right,
maximizing their economic potentials in the region as well as in the global community. Now, of course, it was definitely a show of, opening doors to closer cooperation between the three countries, especially in terms of non-traditional security issues. They talked a lot about the environmental issues, global issues, eradicating poverty, as well as the importance of trade. They talked about social and people-to-people exchange a whole lot as well.
Right. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang actually mentioned the happiness of people, and they will also expand people-to-people exchanges, and especially for the youth, as President Park Geun-hye has mentioned, as because they think it has been remaining at a very low level compared to what potential we have in the exchange of the three countries. They came here to expand, the trilateral exchanges in all ways, economic, social, political, in all ways, because their relations have been very thorny and has cooled down over the past 3 years when this talk has not been held over the past 3 years. That's one of the reasons they want to now hold these talks on a regular basis, and Tokyo will be the host of this meeting next year.
Right. I thought it was also very interesting to hear Prime Minister Abe talk about the abductee issue, and that is one of the most important issues for Japan in terms of North Korea policy or North Korea issues.
Right. I think Abe was the person who came to Seoul with Japan's highest interest in mind. He was the only one to actually mention that issue, and that was another issue for South Korea's reunion with the separated families last month, as South Korea's abductees were one of the members of the family reunions. Now Japan wants to bring up this issue on a level of global and international community so that they could bring their abductees back to Tokyo. So I think he wants to raise his voice in bringing this issue on a trilateral to regional and global issues. And of course, North Korea's nuclear issue was another issue that they talked about bringing Pyongyang back to the table on the six-party talks. And that was one of the issues that we obviously expected that would be on the table, but it was relatively downplayed in terms of compared to the economic aspects they mentioned.
Well, understandably so, but also downplayed was the historical issue. Of course, leaders of South Korea and Japan did not talk about history, whereas Premier Li Keqiang of China was very blunt about mentioning history and how that this region needs to face history squarely. And I think he mentioned the word history maybe 4 times. Your take on that?
Right. I just got back from the foreign ministry this morning, and they actually told me that what Korea and Japan will talk about on tomorrow's summit meeting, but they refrain from mentioning the word comfort women or how they will handle the sexual slavery issue. That means, same as today's trilateral summit, they will actually step a little aside shy from the thorny and sensitive issues. Rather, they're approaching this trilateral summit on a very future-oriented and a very productive way that they could actually bring out the most out of these talks. So we're not even sure if that comfort woman or the sex slavery issue will be mentioned at tomorrow's bilateral summit in Tokyo and Seoul's meeting tomorrow. And it's another thing to note that either President Park Geun-hye nor Abe has mentioned the word of the comfort woman or that issue, in which we should note that President Park Geun-hye has stressed very hard before this meeting that she will make sure that this issue be addressed and taken care of before the end of this year.
Right, because we all know that the precondition to a bilateral summit between South Korea and Japan has been Japan's formal addressing of this comfort women issue. So it remains to be seen how that will be played out. The Korea-Japan bilateral summit, which will be the first since the two leaders took office, tomorrow, Korea time, and also will also be looking closely towards the China-Japan bilateral summit, which will take place later this afternoon in downtown Seoul. All right, Ji-sun, thank you for that. And that is a wrap of our joint news conference of a summit between South Korea, Japan, and China. Now, we'll have more on this press conference, as well as the scheduled bilateral summit between Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and Chinese Premier Li Keqiang in our later newscast at 6 p.m. Korea time. Thank you for watching.